Ultimately, what makes a candidate experience superb is building a common practice within your team that everyone can agree on. However, you cannot improve your candidate experience without tracking these metrics, as they will help promote your performance, improve your employer brand, and help uncover what could be wrong within your recruitment process.
If they treat their candidates like this, or if their processes are this poor and lackluster on something so simple, then how will it be to work there? Like, why would I want to spend my time there?
So 3 top things. 1, give immediate feedback. 2, make it a more personal process. And 3, shorten the application process.
Welcome to the Inside Forbes Councils podcast. Each episode shares transformative insights and advice from members of Forbes Councils, a group of invitation-only communities for successful executives and entrepreneurs. Today's topic, the candidate experience. What it is, why companies should care, and how it plays into a war for talent. We'll hear from Kelly Loudermilk, founder and chief talent innovator of BuildHR. Cara Heilmann, president and CEO of Ready, Reset, Go, and Kandace Miller, director of marketing at Entelo. When you're hiring for a position, the candidate is evaluated on their resume, interview performance, technical skills, and any other number of factors by any number of individuals in the organization. But on the other side of the table, candidates are also forming opinions about your company. Opinions that may influence whether they accept an offer, their perception about your brand, and what they tell their peers. More and more, companies need to pay attention to the candidate experience.
It's one of those buzzwords that you're probably seeing on LinkedIn articles. You're probably hearing a lot of companies similar to myself talking about how the candidate experience is really important with your employer branding, how your employer brand can really play a differentiating factor in your recruiting strategy.
That's Kelly Loudermilk, the founder of BuildHR.
I work a lot with small businesses and sometimes consult with larger businesses such as Fortune 500 companies around their people operations or human resources departments, whether they have one and I'm consulting with them in that regard, or helping them facilitate certain projects that are outside their scope, or even just providing membership support where they have a resource to go to for people operations or human resource and questions.
For you, where did this idea come from, that the candidate experience matters?
Essentially what happened was I had a candidate get invited to an interview for a director position. And they don't really have a formal position in place. They've had somebody in this role for a little over 12 years, but they're very old school, don't really have a lot of new initiatives. They did actually utilize an ATS in the process, which was great, but the communication since then was very lackluster, in my opinion. So when they connected to create an on-site interview for this individual, they didn't include any information as to the people that they would be speaking to, possible items to bring, dress code, parking, any type of details along those lines, where they might be located in a building if they have other suites involved. And it was kind of nerve-wracking for me because as somebody who does do recruiting, I include all that information in my confirmation emails. I'll even send a calendar invite or an agenda with that information. So essentially, this person gave me the feedback that when they came on site, they didn't even know who to ask for. Their printer wasn't working. They didn't know whether or not it was going to be a deal breaker, the fact that they didn't have copies of their resume. They were already feeling really kind of not passive aggressive, but irked enough about the experience that if they were to even move forward in the process, I don't know how seriously my candidate is going to consider the company, because the feedback was if they treat their candidates like this, or if their processes are this poor and lackluster on something so simple, then how will it be to work there? Like, why would I want to spend my time there?
So in a sense, candidates are interviewing the companies as well. when they come in for an interview?
Let me put it this way. If you have two different companies, everything is the exact same. The pay, the benefits, the PTO, the culture, the way the management style is and how it folds with you. You love both jobs. But you as a candidate need to decide which offer to take. And company A was just really lackluster in the process. They waited longer times to communicate with you. They didn't provide any details throughout your interview process. You just kind of got emails here and there. No reminder emails, no calendar invite to pop up on your calendar, anything like that. And then company B, they really took the time to make sure that every single interaction that you had at the organization was completely informed before the interaction happened. So for your phone interviews, you knew exactly who you were speaking to. You got to look at their LinkedIn profile. You got to understand the context of the conversation. You got to understand how to find the elevators, what floor, whether or not there was security that you had to pass through. You knew parking wasn't, worried to have about you knew that parking was close by. You knew that it was free or that it would be a small amount of money. And you just had a very clear understanding of every step of the way and really understood what to expect, and all those expectations were met. If it were me as a candidate, I would go with company B, because if they treat their candidates that way and they're not their direct employee yet, but they're treating me with that kind of respect, of course I'm going to go to that company as a candidate, because that's only going to trickle down into how they treat their employees. But if you're company A and you're so disorganized or even appear disorganized when you're not, that can really make the difference. And so I want everybody to really take the time after this and look at their candidate experience in terms of just communication, just something simple and free and easy to implement right away, and see where you can make changes, or even ask others of what your current process does look like, and see where they would have loved to have information, and make those changes right away, whether that's an email template update or just even clearly communicating on your website of those steps. I think it could be all the difference in your process.
Good communication is key to a good first impression. But what else? How does a company provide a good experience when they're often overwhelmed by the volume of applicants?
My first job was as a staffing specialist at Pioneer Federal Savings Bank in downtown Honolulu, Hawaii. Way back then, when we had to fill a job, I'd put an ad in the local paper, and 2 weeks later, I'd have a nice stack of 20 or so resumes that were mailed to me or dropped off at the office, and I'd read each and every single one of them. This one looks promising, I'd say. She doesn't say she's led a team, but I bet she did based on her job function. See, back then, we could spend the time to connect the dots in reading someone's resume from beginning to end. And if they weren't a fit, I'd mail them a personalized thank you letter. Some of you may remember those days.
That's Cara Heilmann, founder of Ready, Reset, Go, and an executive career coach.
Now fast forward to today. I post a job for an executive assistant, and in one day I have 250 applicants. The second day, it's close to 1,000. I pulled down my posting, and I'm thrilled to have so many candidates, because this process is great for me. But is it great for the candidate, where they are one in among 1,000 a sea of applicants? See, the candidate experience is a thing, and for many candidates, it's not always a positive thing. In fact, candidates kind of expect the experience to be not all that great. And when they come across a company that does it well, it's kind of a shocker to them.
So, how does a company shock their candidates in a good way?
I posted this question to my current VIP cohort. What are the top 3 opportunities that they say a company can do to improve its candidate experience from their perspective? Hands down, this is what I've heard. Number 1, avoid crickets. It being so quiet that you hear the crickets. The number 1 frustration is not hearing anything back. See, candidates put a lot of time, energy, and heart in applying for and preparing for interviews. Crickets happen at 3 major points in a process. 1, when they apply. 2, after a telephone screen. And 3, after they've gone into interview. Yes, even after they interview. One person said she went, they flew her to the city, interviewed, and flew her back. And it's been months and she still hasn't heard from them. This is the number one area of opportunity that companies can take to improve the candidate experience. Avoid crickets. Number two, it's too impersonal. Now, I hear this comment a lot. If your people are your number one priority, why is the process to find people so impersonal? You have the applicant tracking system, the one-way video interviews, artificial intelligence to locate profiles that fit online assessments. Technology is amazing and it is moving so fast that perhaps it's starting to lack a bit of humanity, the subtleness and connection of a human interaction. This is missing from today's online job search process. It's too impersonal. Number three, it's too painful to apply. Now, the applicant process through the applicant tracking system, it is kind of painful. It takes on average about 45 minutes to apply for one job. Top candidates are really turned off by this long and painful online application process, and they will often bypass the entire thing by knowing someone who introduces them to the hiring manager. One person said they had to complete 3 different online assessments that took over an hour. When he mentioned this to the recruiter, they were surprised at how long it took. If there is a way to make the application process faster and easier, it might make your company really stand out and be more attractive to top candidates, because on average, it's really long and painful. So 3 top things. 1, give immediate feedback. 2, make it a more personal process. And 3, shorten the application process. So bottom line to candidates, a bad candidate experience is one where they don't feel valued. Now, I don't think I know of a single company out there that goes out of its way to make people feel not valued. I bet every single company wants a process where each person who applies is thanked and valued. If there is a way for a company to make it more personal, interactive, I bet you'll see your net promoter score climb. Wait, net promoter score during the interview process? Yes. Consider these thousands of people who are spending time researching you, your company, your products, and your services as potential customers, potential advocates. Ask them at different points, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a family member? Track this important net promoter score. Test ways in which you can make this score climb at different points in interaction in a process. Just as you would to acquire a new customer, get a net promoter score for job search. It might help companies find touch points along the way where you can be really creative in using your existing technology to connect and make it a much better candidate experience.
With most things in business, we like to measure. But can the employee experience be measured?
So today I wanted to talk about candidate experience and engagement metrics you should be tracking.
That's Kandace Miller, Director of Marketing at Entelo.
We are a source to hire candidate engagement platform. We really focus on recruiting automation while keeping the candidate experience intact.
What gets measured gets done and all that. So what can we measure?
What's really important when it comes to your candidate experience is making sure that your candidate journeys are more complex and your messaging is targeted. You should monitor these metrics and make sure that you're performing as well as you can. There's really no easy or standard way of giving anyone experience that is better than another without putting in the time and tracking the metrics that are necessary to prove your strategy is actually working. I want to make sure to cover some key metrics that our clients track when developing their candidate engagement strategy. Application completion rate. So if you're in tune with your candidates, they're going to be more inclined to take the time to carry on through the application process. What are you doing to set yourself apart to make the application process meaningful? Maybe even making it fun. Are you making these question sets way too long? Really evaluating the click to apply ratio on your employment applications will show you where you're possibly need to put some time and effort into re-engineering the application process. Candidate drop-off. It really depends on the industry, but if your drop-off rates are more than 30%, I recommend regrouping and looking at where you can draw better attention. Also, what's your communication cadence and what's the average recruiter response time? Making sure that you keep in touch with candidates throughout the entire process will keep them from dropping off and actually keep them engaged with you from start to finish. It can actually take a long time, from that initial application to hire. So making sure they're with you through this whole process is super important. Time to fill. I often see the time to fill reach 5 weeks, even more in some cases. The time it takes to fill a position can be extended for various reasons beyond an inefficient scheduling or interview process. Candidates cannot always begin a role within the typical 2-week time frame for various reasons, such as relocation, contractual obligation, and more. This is why it's always best to track the time it took from the day the position was open to the day an offer was actually accepted. Candidate Net Promoter Score, or NPS. Tracking your candidate Net Promoter Score is essential to figuring out if you're doing a good job or not. Figuring out how your candidates feel about your process will tell you everything that you need to know. For example, you can include surveys in certain steps of your candidate journey, post-interview or even at the end of the process. I would even suggest taking a look at platforms like Glassdoor or on social media to make sure that you're getting feedback on how your candidates feel about you and how you dealt and handled their application process. Another thing our clients like to track is the cost of a bad candidate experience. According to our friends at the Talent Board, www.talentboard.org, the candidate experience has a significant effect on whether or not candidates apply to your company ever again, whether or not they refer others to your company, and whether or not they even make purchases. A bad candidate experience will indefinitely affect your company's bottom line. I suggest that you go check out their website. They actually do offer a calculator that will help you track the cost, the actual cost of a bad candidate experience. Lastly, career site stats. So what's really important is to make sure that you're promoting a user-friendly, SEO-optimized career site that offers candidates the opportunity to sign up for job alerts, as well as the opportunity to keep in touch with your employer brand through various content initiatives. Ultimately, what makes a candidate experience superb is building a common practice within your team that everyone can agree on. However, you cannot improve your candidate experience without tracking these metrics, as they will help promote your performance, improve your employer brand, and help uncover what could be wrong within your recruitment process.
Job applicants interact with your business. Therefore, the experience must be considered a branding moment. So consider ways that you can improve your candidate's experience. If you'd like to connect with Kelly Loudermilk of BuildHR, check out yourhrsource.com. BuildHR provides outsourced HR solutions for small businesses. If you'd like to connect with Cara Heilmann of Ready, Reset, Go, go to readyresetgo.com. And if you'd like to connect with Kandace Miller, feel free to email her at kmiller@entelo.com for a demo of Entelo's hiring platform, which includes text messaging, email, self-scheduling, surveys, analytics, and more. Well, that's all we have time for today. If you're not a member of one of Forbes Councils and are interested in joining, go to forbescouncils.com to see if you qualify. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.